Okay, now for what we've all come here for, I'd like to invite Dave Bidini up to the stage. Dave became a friend of the museum's last year, as I say. He's an author, a musician, the only person to be nominated for a Genie, a Gemini, a Juno, as well as CBC's Canada Reads. Founding member of the Rio Statics, Dave has also written 12 books, including On a Cold Road, Tropic of Hockey, and Keon and Me, I think is the one I recall most recently. Friend of the museum, Dave Bidini.
Thanks, folks. Thanks, Dave. I also wrote a baseball book called Baseballissimo. Me and my wife Janet, who's with me tonight, we traveled around Italy for 6 months, following the Nettuno Peones around Italy. Really low-quality Italian baseball, but, you know, they had a lot of heart. We ate really well. The wine was great. And the baseball was pretty scrappy. What's that? I'll say questions later, so. And we will have questions later. I just want... Fitz is preparing his questions. That's great. It's ahead of the curve. Yeah, I'm going to talk a little bit. Me and Jesse are going to talk, and then we're going to take questions from the crowd. Growing up, I loved the game of baseball. For me, and for most of us who live in Canada, it was the sport that appeared after the snow melted and the grass grew and the sun climbed to shine high, long after dinner time, which found all of us back at the diamond, running and shouting, chasing the ball down the ravine into the creek, pants wet, face smudged, and arms sore from throwing and hitting a ball that hurt, even though the adults said it wouldn't hurt, it did. But that was okay. As a kid, I loved the Cincinnati Reds, Pittsburgh Pirates, Boston Red Sox, probably because of the crest and the logos. And the reason I loved those teams, all-American teams, was because we didn't have one in Canada until, of course, the Expos. We got to cheer for them. Yeah. And then I remember in 1976, you know, the sports news was such a big deal. It still is to many of us, I'm sure, but the word coming on the front page of the Globe and Mail that there was going to be a Major League Baseball team in Toronto, that they were going to wear blue. And my dad entered a contest to get tickets for opening day. We got them, it snowed, and I was there. There were early struggles, crazy struggles with the expansion team against other teams that were old as time, and then suddenly, around 1983, something seemed to happen. Young players started arriving. Actually, truth be told, a few of them arrived a little bit before then. But these were players who were around the same age as me, 20, 21, 22. They replaced the expansion veterans, bringing with them hope and promise and exuberance, a kind of exuberance to match our own youth at the time. Names like Bell, Fernandez, Upshaw, Steve, Mosby, Damaso Garcia. Although I can never remember Damaso Garcia as being actually young. He always seemed to be about 150 years old. Nonetheless, so same with Jim Clancy.
Diamond Jim.
But the great thing about this team is I think it really helped, as a Torontonian, I think it helped Toronto find its identity as not only a baseball town, but as a city. And this was around the same time, of course, that the team was finding their own identity. At that time, and a little bit before, and certainly after, they had a right fielder. His arm was like a cannon, and his bat was like a thunderbolt. His name was Jesse Barfield. Now, Jesse was and would continue to be the foundation for the best outfield of the 1980s, both statistically and in profile and aplomb and exuberance and success, of course. If Lloyd Mosby chased balls around like a hound after a play toy and George Bell swatted at them as if being attacked from above, Jesse was all poise, calm, and power, an approach that he mirrored at the plate as well. For 3 years, he led the American League in outfield assists, and in 1986, he won a Gold Glove, a Silver Slugger Award, and he led the major leagues with 40 home runs. In 1985, he helped deliver us to something which an entire generation could only dream, an AL East division title, defeating the teams we'd once worshipped, having none to worship as our own. Ladies and gentlemen, our guest for tonight, Jesse Barfield. Welcome.
It's good to be here.
Pretty legit in a museum and everything, eh?
This is a big league right here.
Indeed. You're from Joliet, Illinois. The first thing I think of when I hear the name Joliet is the blues.
Yeah.
Were you aware of that tradition growing up in Joliet?
I was. Joliet, Jake, and the Blues Brothers. They were big.
Was there a blues tradition in Uncle's aunt's family? Was there music around when you were growing up?
Yeah, there was. I like R&B myself, the Motown sound, but my relatives loved the blues, and you know, I liked all music, to be honest with you, but I was more R&B.
For you growing up, did it feel like baseball was there from birth, or was it something that you discovered later on? Was it a game that you always remembered playing?
Well, actually, baseball was my probably third love. Basketball was my first love. I didn't play organized baseball until I was 12 years old. One of my good friends introduced me to the game, asked me to go try out. I didn't even want to play it. He kept bugging me. It was on a Monday. Tryouts are on Saturday. You gonna go? No. Wednesday, I'm not going. Friday, he wore me down. I finally gave in. Okay, I'll go. Leave me alone. So he picked me up and went. The people put the number on your back, pinned it on. They said, okay, we need some ground balls, throw it across the diamond. Then you're gonna come pick the ball at first, go in the outfield, hit some fly balls, then you're gonna take some swings. We did that in Sandlot. We had fun. And I thought I did a pretty decent job. And I got home, and later on that evening, I got a call from Hank Gowinda, my first coach. He said, congratulations, you're my first pick for Eastside Air Conditioning. Eastside AC.
It all starts with Eastside Air Conditioning. And because of that pick and because of that beginning, that was something you never turned your back on. So did you take to it immediately? Was that part of the discovery for you?
I liked it. I really did. I liked the organization. I liked what it stood for. The ballpark was gorgeous. The background, I still remember it. I remember giving up a grand slam home run to Rodney Horn, shaking off the catcher. Should have done that. Yeah, but I fell in love with it. Actually, my buddy that introduced me to the game did not get picked. I felt horrible. And a couple guys that were chosen on my team never came to practice, and Rick would show up, and I asked Coach Hank if he would at least consider Rick. He said, yeah, I remember him. He wasn't a bad ball player. He gave me a uniform. We were together in the same team Little League, same team in Pony League, same team in Colt League. We played together in high school. He gave it up after his sophomore year. Matter of fact, I used to hang around him to get more chicks. He was good looking.
Glad he had something going for him.
He was a good looking dude.
Started out as a pitcher then? Was that the primary position?
Shortstop and pitch.
Okay. At what point did the outfield come where you did?
I started playing outfield my second year in organized baseball. I guess because we had guys that were, better at with the glove. My arm was good, so they put me out in the outfield. I didn't mind. I played center field. I could run. And I liked throwing guys out, so I stayed with it. It worked out.
And do you think one of the reasons they would have put you in the outfield was because you had a live arm as a pitcher, or that there was already that sort of strength?
I could pitch. I threw hard. I didn't have a great curveball. Matter of fact, I hurt my arm once trying to throw a curveball. And that's why kids don't have your kids throwing curveballs early. I think most of you know that, but please. I almost ruined my arm as a kid throwing curveballs in all-star practice. No one taught me how to do it. And, I wish I had, if I could go back and do it all over again, I would have tried to throw a changeup instead. Later on, I learned a changeup, but I gave up another home run to one of my best friends in high school, and that was the end of my pitching career.
Yeah, I think it's becoming apparent why you ended up becoming.
Absolutely. And he was one of my best friends. He ended up getting drafted by the Boston Red Sox, and we played together in the summer. Rick and Rico, his name was Rick Coburn, and I threw a changeup. My catcher called for a changeup, and Rick was a good fastball hitter, Rico. So I threw a changeup, and he hit it probably about 420 straight away. And we're both laughing. He's going around the bases, laughing. I'm looking at him, shaking my head, laughing. my buddy, but he killed it. And after the game, I said, man, you knew I was throwing it. How did you hit that ball so far? He said, Jesse, when you throw a changeup, don't slow your whole body down next time. I didn't know. I didn't have a pitching coach. I telegraphed it. So he just sat back and waited on it. Killed it.
You mentioned earlier about Comiskey, and I talked to you about some of your experiences there, but who were your heroes, baseball heroes, growing up as a young ball player?
Oh, that's easy for me. Ernie Banks, I loved him. Mr. Cub. I just liked the way he carried himself. He played the game with a lot of enthusiasm, always positive. I remember he kissed my aunt's hand one time, and she didn't wash her hand for a week. I didn't eat her food for a whole week.
What were the circumstances? Where did this kiss take place?
Well, it was not at a nightclub. It was at Wrigley Field. It was at Wrigley Field. She finally met him and asked for an autograph, and the gentleman he is kissed her in the hand, and she didn't wash her hand for a week.
Remember the first time you met Ernie Banks?
I do. I will never forget it. I was at a show, at a autograph show with him in St. Louis, and I actually created a line of custom sports furniture. A lot of people don't know this about me, but I'm actually an architect more than a baseball player. So if you look up patent search, that Jesse Barfield is me. I have 21 patents. People don't know that. I love designing. I love sketching. And the Blue Jays took me away from that. I'm not complaining. But I love doing that. I love designing. And so what happened was, I was at the show with Ernie and had my custom line of furniture there. And in my lamps, I would trade out the baseball cards periodically. And I had in my shirt pocket some of the baseball cards, and on the back of one, I saw Ernie getting on the elevator. And I said, Ernie, Jesse, hold the elevator, please. So we talked for a second. It's nice to meet you. It's a pleasure, man. You're my hero. And I said, matter of fact, on the back of one of my cards, could you please read this? He said, as a kid, he rooted for Ernie Banks, his childhood hero. And his eyes got big. I'm like, dude, this is freaking me out, you know. You're my hero. Don't get teary-eyed over this, you know. He asked me to sign the card for him, and at the show, he signed 2 8x10s to me. He had a great positive message on it, and I knew I rooted for the right guy growing up, because I still look at those every day when I go up to my trophy room.
So your affections would have been more north side and south side?
Actually, I like both. They say you couldn't root for both. I didn't care. I like some of the White Sox players. I lived closer to Comiskey Park. I never went to Wrigley. My aunt did. I never went to Wrigley. But I went to Comiskey several times.
Now, you never went to Wrigley just because there wasn't the opportunity or because it was
too far?
Yeah.
And we used to go up to the Comiskey Park with the Joliet Boys Club. I was affiliated with them. And we used to go take road trips up there. And that was my favorite part.
We're in a museum, and you mentioned design, and if we could just touch on that a little bit. When did you discover that was something that you loved to do? And did it start from drawing, or what was the light that went on for you?
Well, growing up in Illinois, we would have a statewide drafting contest every year, and I stayed up late at night. My mom would yell at me, "Go to sleep, Mom. I have to nail this. You don't understand. I got to get this right." We didn't have computers back then. It was freehand instruments. And I thought I nailed it. They didn't think so. I got an honorable mention. That was my junior year. But my senior year, I nailed the first place. I was determined to get it. And my mom still has that drawing. I looked at it not too long ago. I said, that's pretty darn good. That's not bad.
Describe the drawing.
It was actually it was an industrial building. And I had to do the different levels, the dimensions, and it was like 5 different pages. And I had a drafting class, 2 hours, and that was my favorite, no doubt. I love drafting.
And there's a certain discipline that comes with that art. Do you think there's a relationship between that process and the process of studying, hitting, for instance, the mechanics? I mean, you were showing us earlier the mechanics of you hitting, and the just general mechanics and anatomy. Are they connected somehow?
They really are, because it's artwork. It really is. I remember we were talking about going out to Vancouver, the home run hitting contest. Joe Carter was throwing batting practice 2 years ago, and some of the sponsors with the Vancouver affiliate team out there for the Jays, they were taking batting practice, and Joe was pumping strikes right there. And Kelly Gruber, Lloyd, Devo, and myself, we were helping the guys with their mechanics. And a lot of the guys were struggling big time. They couldn't even, they put a fence inside the fence. And the ballpark in Vancouver is a pretty big ballpark. And I think it was Nat Bailey ballpark. Yeah. And these guys, they didn't come close. So I said, okay, guys, this is going to sound really different, but I played the big leagues, you didn't, so you need to listen. Because right now, you stink. Okay, you got nothing to lose. I'm telling like it is. You flew me all the way up here. Let's go. So you got nothing to lose. Either I'm the dumbest person on earth, or you're going to improve. So you got nothing to lose. Now, when you swing, and I say you probably heard just the opposite, but when you swing, you tell the kids, don't drop your back shoulder. Well, guess what? We all drop our back shoulder, if you want to call it that. It's called getting on plane with the pitch, without getting too technical. I said, and the guy looked at me like, I said, just do it. Prove me wrong. I said, make sure you get your back elbow all the way down by your back pocket. So you got nothing to lose. Okay, first swing, he short hops the fence. Not the inside fence, he cleared that by a mile. He short hopped the real fence. He hit one off the top of the fence, then he took one in the trees. He turned around, he looked at me, he goes, that's why my son sucked. I told him not to do that. I said, that's why Joe Carter's good, that's why he's good, that's why Devo's good, that's why he's good, and that's why I can hit.
One last architecture question. Do you have a favorite building?
Oh. Yeah.
Probably not either
Exhibition Stadium.
Architecture.
When you would go to cities, was there a building that captured your imagination?
The Smithsonian. Absolutely.
Exhibition Stadium.
That's a good place. But, yeah, I like the
Yeah.
Smithsonian. No doubt about it. As far as favorite ballparks, Comiskey, because I remember the certain smells of the ballpark. The hot dog smells, the beer. Just a certain smell in that ballpark. I can still remember it as a kid. And being in the upper deck, I remember one day we were talking upstairs. One of my buddies, I looked down from the upper deck in our seats, and I said to Richard, it's Rick, man, one day I'm gonna be playing right. Okay, I didn't have bass in my voice. I don't have much bass now. I said, man, one day I'm gonna be playing right out there. Watch. He said, man, you crazy. You think you're gonna be playing out there? I said, I'm telling you, I'm gonna be playing right out there. Watch. He said, you got no chance on earth. So he looks over and goes, this guy thinks he's gonna be playing out there. You gotta be. So they're laughing, my buddies are laughing. So my buddy Don, he elbows me, he goes, man, look, don't listen to those guys. Believe in yourself. You think you're gonna be out there, go for it. Well, 4 years later, I got drafted.
You're 17.
17. I was 13 when I told these guys. One thing I learned from that whole situation.
Yeah, you'd only been playing ball for 5 years. You're 12 years ago.
Yeah, no doubt. One thing I learned from that situation is that you don't tell everybody your goals, because they're not going to all celebrate it with you. Now, I learned that a long time ago. Certain things, like bad habits and things like that, you want to get rid of stuff. Yeah, I want to tell everybody that, especially the haters. I want to tell you guys. I want to tell you that, because you're going to give me the fire and the motivation to do stuff right. I don't want you to see me fail. So those kind of goals, I'm going to tell you. But I learned a long time ago, don't share those things with other people unless you know they're in your corner. But sure enough, I made it.
Well, you know, and I'm reminded of Delta Pompeii, growing up as a kid, watching Jays games at Skydome, and getting Orlando Hudson's batting gloves, and then now this year his dream is being realized playing for the Blue Jays. just maybe take us forward a little bit to your first at bat. You're called up, you get the call. Maybe take us through the beginning when you get the call from AA and the Blue Jays want you, and take us through to your first at bat if you could.
Yeah, I was actually in AA Knoxville, and Tommy Craig was the trainer. And I go to the ballpark, I had my sandals on, and my shorts, t-shirt. We didn't have a dress code. So I walk in, and Tommy goes, Skipper wants to see you in the office. I'm thinking, I didn't skip curfew. What's going on here? Did I get traded? You know, your mind plays tricks on you. So I'm thinking, what's going on here? So I go in, and they had the big strike in 1981. I know some of y'all remember that, the first big strike. And so they said they weren't going to call anybody up because baseball was hurting for funds. And I had a decent year, so I felt I had a chance, but after that, no. So I walk in, he said, hey man, congratulations. They called me today and said, you got called up to the big leagues and you're going to be starting right fielder tomorrow for the Blue Jays, Toronto. I said, man, stop playing. I did. I looked at him, I said, stop, just stop playing. He said, oh, Jesse, I'm serious. I said, where are they right now? He said, they're in Arlington, they're going to finish up the series there, and you're going to meet them in Chicago. And you're in right field in Chicago tomorrow. And I thought about I was 13, buddies.
You're staring down in right field.
Yeah.
What year is that, Jesse?
That was 81, I got called up. That was 73 when they told me, nah, no chance. So I left 54 tickets, and you better believe I left tickets for them.
Come and watch me.
You gotta see this.
Should have made him buy a ticket, really, though.
Well, they bought the next one.
Your first at bat, who was on the hill?
It was Trout. Mike Trout. No, not Mike Trout. Steve Trout. Mike Trout's the great slugger.
Steve Trout was a lefty.
Steve Trout was a lefty. And first pitch, he threw me a pitch. I hit it in the hole, shortstop. And I could run a little bit back then. I thought, man, I got my first big league hit in a hole. Oh my God. Guy picked it, threw it across the diamond, bang, bang, got me by eyelash. Wow. So I put my helmet down, and I thought I said it's soft, but I guess I didn't. And I said, man, that was a hit in AA a couple nights ago. And Big John Mayberry said, this ain't no AA. No kidding.
Big John.
But on the way to the ballpark, I gotta tell you all that. On the way to the ballpark, we're talking about no dress code. I'll tell you what happened the next at bat. But on the way to the ballpark, we didn't have much money. Well, I know I didn't growing up. And when I got that call, I had to go get some clothes at the mall real quick before I got to the airport. So I run over real quick, and I had one at bat. I don't know why to this day. Why did he let me bat one? What if I broke my ankle? I'm like, whoa, okay. He gave me one at bat. I singled up the middle, and then they announced it. I got a nice little ovation. My bag was packed. I got out of there, pinch runner. I'm like, God, thank you for not letting me get hurt. And I ran over to the mall, and I went to a place called Chess King and Tom McCann. Real high-end, no, it wasn't high-end. So I bought me a pleather jacket. Don't look at me like that. And I bought me some pleather shoes. That's the best I could do. So I got them, and I got on the bus. I had my Kmart Walkman. Couldn't afford Sony. And so I'm on the bus, just happy. Man, I'm going to the show. Giddy. And so all of a sudden, I feel this tap on the back of my shoulder. And Big John gave me the nickname Bakefield. Lloyd was shake, and I'm bake. Shake and bake better than frying, a commercial. So he put it together, Bakefield, so I'm Bakefield. Bakefield. Take those headphones off. Yeah, Big John. Bakefield, where'd you get that jacket? I said, Chess King. Otto Velez. He goes, Otto. Pop Bakefield's jacket. So he grabbed the jacket. I don't know what significance this was, but Otto grabbed the jacket like this. Grabbed the pleather, rolled his finger, and popped it. He go, Big John, that don't sound like real leather to me. Oh my so embarrassed.
Pop it is a great term, really, can be applied to anything. That's great.
He popped it.
Didn't pass the pop test. So you're sliding with the Jays, early 80s, transitional. Now, the teams that we were, I think that really became part of our consciousness and were on our radar were, sort of through the mid-80s. At what point did you think that it was starting to change, and when did it really seem apparent to you that that you had a good club, and that the chemistry was forming that would allow it to become a club that it did?
That's a great question. I really believe it was 84 when the Tigers got off to that stupid 35-5 start. That's unfair.
Ruined it for everyone.
They were garbage.
35-5. Are you serious?
Excessive.
That's not fair.
They were garbage.
They were good. And I think we got it within 2.5 games. But we ran out of steam down the stretch, man. We came close. And then this guy named Bobby Cox came in and he infused his confidence in us. He had this platoon system, which I was a huge part of. I hated it.
Who did you platoon with early on?
Hoskin Powell.
Oh, jeez.
Hoskin Powell. He looked like the Black Dick Tracy.
That's a good one.
He did. He had this old car. We called him the Black Dick Tracy. Looked just like a square head, old cars. Loved the guy.
You have the hat too, the Dick Tracy?
He did. He had the hat. And then it was Dave Collins later on. When Dave would play, George would play right field. Dave would play left. And then when I would play, George would play left. I would play right. When I would play, and Dave would not play against the lefties.
That, there's so many different elements of that team, that emerging team, but one that a lot of us remember is, and the one that's been recognized by history is the outfield. Three so distinct ball players and personalities, everybody with their own specific kind of skill set, and they really, from the outside, they appeared to really define the nature of that team in terms of getting along, despite being good at other things. Did you feel like a distinct group, and what was it like in that kind of micro group of that team?
The thing I liked about it, it was funny. George would always tease me. He was more outgoing, and he would just come out of nowhere. I'm a better hitter than you. Yeah, you are. I thought about that. I said, that was a weak comeback. It's too late. Then the next time I said, let him try that one more time. So he did. A couple weeks later, I'm a better hitter than you. He's trying to get a rise. I said, yeah, but I'm a better all-around player than you. He stopped.
Were you competitive between the three of you guys?
Just like you and your brother. I love my brother, but I don't want him faster than me and better than me. Come on.
Would you have been tighter with Lloyd than you would have been with George, or was it
equal, same? And George was he was a great teammate, and one you want to go to war with, because when that game started, man, he was a warrior, and he played the game right, played it hard.
And the shaker.
And the shaker was amazing.
Shaker.
He kept an even keel. You couldn't tell if he was 0 for 4 or 4 for 4. Played the game with a lot of enthusiasm, and the one thing I appreciate about those guys, I remember one time Clemens struck George out on a high fastball in Boston. Shoot, he got me 2 or 3 times that game. So he was throwing 97 that night. And George came back, slammed his helmet down. He goes, you let him try that one more time. He tried it. ESPN that night, Chris Berman goes, check this clock out. George hit a ball. Roger tried to go up the ladder on him one more time. Oh my God. He hit it so, I think it got out like 3.3 seconds into that net. He came back, took his time. They didn't like George. Oh, they did not like George in Boston.
I'm just surprised George didn't charge them out.
Well, I tell you what, I thought we were going to fight over there first when we got home. But when he came back in, he sat down, they booed him, he looked at us and he goes, I tell you, he throw 96, I swing 97.
That's a great line.
He was good.
I remember being at Exhibition Stadium and George charging them out. It might have been Bruce Keeson, I'm not entirely
Drop
sure.
kicking.
But and then
Drop kicking.
there's a fight and there's a thing, and then George gets up and we see him walking back to the dugout. He's got something in his hand, and it was a clump of hair. I think he torn out of maybe Keeson's.
Oh my God.
So really quite a. But it was great. I mean, you guys all came from different backgrounds, different parts of the world.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, had amazing harmony. 85. I mean, obviously, we remember the video of George catching the ball in left field and everything, and that's become burned in our memory as such a high watermark for sports in Canada, for our city, and for the baseball team to this day. But is there a memory that you hold from that season in '85 that defines what it was like to be on that ride? And is there a memory that you treasure, a game, an at-bat, or something where you really thought it was possible that this team was going to achieve greatness?
Without a doubt. The New York series, when we blew that first game, when that ball was hit to Tony, he flipped it to Damo. Damo thought Tony was going to step on second and take it himself and throw to first. Miscommunication. And then floodgates open. Hassey hit the home run in the upper deck. The crowd, 50,000+ went berserk. They went crazy that night. And man, the next day they tried to intimidate us. They did everything they could. We were so mad. We came back and kicked their beep.
You won the last 3 games of that series.
Yep, got them. And we showed everyone there we were serious.
But take me to the night after that terrible loss in New York. What's going through your head? How do you feel in your gut? Because a young team and a team that had never won, and back home we're watching that game and seeing it collapse, and we're thinking, well, it's done. Because we didn't know, we didn't have the medal. But are you terrified? Like, what's the feeling that you have after you've suffered a loss like that?
The characters we had on that team, we weren't terrified. No, not at all. Matter of fact, I don't know if anyone other than us saw Dave Winfield the day we clinched it, after when Hassey hit that, when Butch Weiniger hit that home run, when the rain started coming down, you couldn't hear a pin drop. The next morning, we were taking batting practice. Dave Winfield, who was a great friend of mine, I love Winnie, hated him back then. Winnie came to the first base line with 2 45-pound dumbbells, trying to intimidate us. Yes, he did. Man. And I'm like, I looked at Shake, I looked at Lloyd and Willie, I said, look at this guy. Oh, an anger came over us. Even more so. And I looked at him, I said, dude, he doesn't know what's about to hit him. Kylie was in the shower in just a few minutes. We dropped the 3 or 4 spot on him, and before you know it, Blue Jay fans have waited a long time for this one. We weren't going to be denied. No, we had to have that.
Wow, it's surprising that you would poke the bear that way, being the veteran that he was. Interesting.
He didn't know us. He didn't know us.
Was it a different feeling moving into the postseason? Was it something that you guys were prepared for, or was it a whole new experience for you, being in the limelight? You're on national television. These are the playoffs. You're on your way to the World Series. Did it feel different to you?
I was focused. Actually, you look back at that series, we hit some balls hard. We pitched well. Danny Jackson stuck it up our tail a couple of times. Other than that, Bud Black threw well. We got Saberhagen. We got Lee Brandt. We hit some balls pretty hard. A couple of breaks here and there could have gone our way. We were just getting ready to put the finishing touch on I believe it was Saberhagen. And I think Lloyd and somebody hit one off his leg. And then they brought Black in, and we couldn't hit him. So it was just a bad break for us. It just wasn't meant to be. And we worked our butt off, and it was the same year, not to make an excuse, it was the same year they changed the format from best of 5 to best of 7. That's not to make an excuse. You lose 3 in a row. There's no excuse for that. We should have won that game. But I was watching ESPN Classics not too long ago, and my wife let me fuss for two innings. She gave me that. And she was preparing dinner. She couldn't take it anymore. She goes, Jesse, that was 1985. Turn the page. It's over.
No, it's not.
My God. Turn to HGTV or something. She slapped me out of it. So, I'm sorry.
HGTV, everybody wins.
I love it. I love it.
Everybody grows in
House
stars.
hunters.
Did that, not to dwell on that season or that series, but did it teach you anything about the fragility of success or lack thereof?
Absolutely. You know what's funny about it too, the reason why I was fussing? I was in the meeting where they told Doyle, don't let George Brett beat you. He tries to trick him off the plate with a changeup.
Doyle Alexander was a pitcher, just for some backstory, that the Jays had traded
Doyle.
for.
Doyle.
To come and he was great, you know, when he was here. And he's pitching one of the pivotal games in the series.
If it wasn't for Doyle, we wouldn't be there.
He was awesome.
That's right.
He was
Doyle
awesome.
wouldn't be there. But I'll tell you what, walk him. And then, okay, you make a mistake. Then he tried to trick him again. He got it twice. I'm like, walk the dude. Do not let Brett beat you. You got Balboni coming up. You got this guy coming up. George Brett is George Brett. He's going to hurt you sooner or later. You can't trick him. He knows how to sit back on a breaking ball, a foot off the plate, and shoot you the other way. He's a Hall of Famer. So that's my only beef.
I wonder how much that season propelled you into the next season, because you had your defining season in 1986. Did you approach that season with a certain kind of vengeance? Like it was something you wanted to? Did you use it as sort of an energy to propel you to this new height of playing?
Well, actually, it was a momentum builder. But actually, George Bell helped me tremendously because I started that season, I think, with maybe one home run and a handful of RBIs in April. And I don't know what happened. Hitting's a funny thing. George came up to me one day, he goes, hey, Jesse, you tried to carry the whole team. You look at this lineup. If I don't get you, you're going to get him. If you don't get him, Shaker going to get him. You don't get him, he going to get him. You can't carry the whole team. You beat Jesse, I beat George, one at bat at a time. Right. Relax, have some fun. It's a teammate.
Is that yet one of the essences of hitting then? If you had to describe to someone, you know, the path to success as a hitter, or a few of the principles that you have to rely on, a thing that you have to go back in order to be a successful hitter, what would they be?
I would say, have a game plan. When you walk up to home plate, you know what that guy is trying to do. But as a hitter, you better have a game plan. It goes deeper than see the ball, hit the ball. All this stuff you do in practice, all the mental preparation, yes, you don't want to be thinking about mechanics and feet and hands and all this. I tell kids all the time, when you get in that batter's box, I want you to think about one thing, nothing. You're on autopilot. You got your timing and rhythm. You know when to get started. You know when to put the foot down. If you're going to sit breaking ball, then you're not going to hit the fastball. I remember watching Roy Oswald, a little skinny dude from Mississippi, throwing 95, 97 miles per hour. He must have baboon tendons. I don't know how he did it. No muscles. But he threw a 95 mile per hour fastball on average, and his curveball was 75. Same motion. I never faced him. That would have been a heck of a challenge. I saw Pujols face him, and that's what makes Albert so good. Pujols came up, and Roy throws him that 75 breaking ball. He sits back and hits a rocket the other way. Next time up, he throws him the fastball. Boom, turns on him. Next time up, he throws him 3 fastballs right down the middle. He takes all 3 of them. And he's chuckling going back to the dugout. I mean, he's already playing with house money. He's drove in like 3 or 4 runs already. But people call it guessing. You can call it that if you want. But he was sitting on his curveball. And then the next time he was sitting on his fastball. I wasn't there, I saw it on TV, but I don't know what possessed him to sit fastball that at bat or breaking ball, but as a hitter, you're in the flow of the game. You watch the game, you pay attention, you see how he pitches a certain guy. That's why I like batting behind George instead of in front of him, because he had a quicker bat than me. If a guy tried to come inside on him, I know he was trying to come inside on me. So if they try to jam him, I'm pulling my hands in that night. That was a great barometer for me. So I would always keep that in the back of my head. Sometimes I would bat in the 3-hole, and George would bat behind me, or 4th or 5th or whatever. But you got to pay attention to how that guy's throwing. If he's getting a breaking ball over, things like that. If he's not throwing it for strikes, I'm not going to look for it. Now, if he pulls 3 breaking balls out of his butt for strikes, then I got to tip my hat.
Right. How much of that comes from Cito working with you as a
A lot of it comes from him. A lot of it comes from your teammates, too. You look at guys like John Mayberry and Otto Velez and Barry Bonnell, Al Woods, Bossetti, guys like that. You hear them sit and talk hitting, and you listen, you learn, and you pay attention. And that's what you do when you're on the bench.
It's hard for me to imagine Rick Musetti having a serious conversation.
That's true. I want to tell you what his claim to fame was, but we got kids in here, I can't do it.
It's actually pretty, I think you can tell that story. I think you can tell.
You know this story?
Yeah, sure. I think it's fine.
Oh my God. This guy, his goal, and he did it, was to pee on every field during the game.
Pee in every major league stadium, right?
He did it during the game.
It's one way of getting in the Hall of Fame, right?
You know,
Classic.
the place where I'm helping the kids in Houston,
Yeah.
they found the when they imploded the Kingdom. They had turf from the old Kingdom, and they had it in the warehouse. So the manager of the place found it online. He had it shipped in. The whole place is turfed over with the Kingdom turf. So I'm sitting there one day, and we had a clinic, and I'm looking at this big spot, and I'm thinking, you know, I don't know. I'm thinking Bossetti might have been here. I don't know, I'm just saying.
Bossetti was in a lot of places. Rick Bossetti's one name, but those teams throughout the 80s, who would have been the characters? Who were the guys that keep you loose, the guys that are outrageous? Who would have been those characters? And was there an example that you could give us of somebody losing the team?
Yeah, we had a few guys, actually. It wasn't just 1 or 2 guys. I think the whole starting 9 was on crack without actually using it.
Right.
But
Rance.
yeah, Rance was crazy too.
Garth.
Me, Jose Nunez. We used to go to Cleveland, and all the brothers had the Jerry curl. For you white folks that don't know what that is, that's the stuff they roll in the curls pop up.
It's a look.
It's a look. Some of us had a Jerry drip. Not me. Some of us. So we get back from Cleveland, and Nunez would steal my curl activator. He bought his own, but he would steal mine. A clubhouse kid told me, Nunez has been in your locker every day for the last 5 days. Really? Yeah, he's been stealing your curl activator.
And that's
You don't mess with a man's brother's curl. That's like taking an Italian's pasta.
Been there.
You know what I'm saying? No, wrong. So I took it home and I sabotaged it. Poured half of it out. Put some ivory soap in it. Salt, shook it up, chemical reaction. Shook it up, still kind of grainy. My wife goes, "What are you doing?" I said, "I'll explain later." I'm shaking it up. Yeah, that's perfect. I told her, she said, "You're not going to do that. Watch me." So I got it. It's perfect. And I put it right up front for him, screwed it up front for him. And he would wait until we'd be on the field. He'd always show up. If you're late for stretching, it's going to cost you. He would just beat the clock because he was in there getting my juice while we were out there. Right? So, and when it's chilly outside, that chemical reaction. So he comes out, and we're stretching on the turf, and Nudie comes out, and he's got that guilty look on his face. And I look over at him and say, Nudie, hey Jesse, you been in my curl activator? No, ain't no touching. I said, it was chilly that day too, perfect. I said, touch your hair. It was white and hard. The air hit, when he came out, it was glistening. Oh, it was glistening. And when that air hit it, it got cold, it was hard as a brick. I said, touch your hair. He goes, con. That's a cuss word in Spanish. Anyway, I said, Nuni, that's a reminder, don't ever mess with anything in my locker. Anything. So, you got to keep guys on their toes.
Sure. And it's stuff like that that happens on a team that, I suppose, gets people thinking not only of the game. That must be important. Just kind of moving through your career a little bit. You know, I'm just a fan, and you know, love the game, love the team. I can't talk about 1987. Can you in any way articulate your feelings? I mean, the season was phenomenal. I mean, a phenomenal team, set the record with 10 home runs in a game, and just such power. And then the end. Have you been able to get your heart and your mind around it?
Is there a good therapist here in Tennessee? I still need help. I can't wrap my head around that. I know when we lost Tony when Medlock upended him at second base, that didn't help. Frank Tanana threw an amazing game. You got to give that guy some credit too. Throwing that puss. That's what you call that.
Say that again?
Puss.
Okay.
He's throwing puss that day. And, flipping his curveball. After he threw 86, 85, that slow curveball, that 85 seemed like 95. You know, it's the differential of speed that got you. And he was spotting that fastball inside, cutting it, throwing that slow lollipop curveball.
Right, Tanana for Jimmy Key, right?
Yeah, man.
Yeah.
Unbelievable.
Funny too, the ball goes through Manny Lee's legs. I mean, you talk about Mike Flanagan, the late Mike Flanagan, a phenomenal game that he pitched, and the wind-blown home run, of course, you know. So, I mean, what goes through your mind? Because it did seem to be about just fortune swung, and all the good stuff happened to the wrong team, and all the bad stuff happened to the right team.
What a lot of people don't realize that happened, when we took off flying, Juan Beniquez was making these crying baby noises in the back, keeping us loose like a baby crying.
Everybody's got their thing.
And I'm looking in the back, everybody's like, what is going on here? We had just come back and had that phenomenal game. Tigers, we beat them, and blah, blah, blah.
And Beniquez got the walk-off, right?
Yeah, and I think the Brewers came in and beat us. Right. So Beniquez is making these noises, we're taking off, and we hit a flock of geese. So the wives were with us. Adrian Mosby and my wife were sitting over here, and the engine flamed. And the stink from that goose, wow. So we had to do an emergency landing, came back around, barely made it. So we had to take a bus to Detroit. And that was an omen right there. And when that goose got sucked in there, needless to say, that baby shut up in the back. No mas. It's a bad week.
Yeah. Just a couple more minutes. There's so much else we want to talk about. Perhaps we can even cover that with questions. Maybe we'll go to the questions a little bit early, if that's possible. Are we going to use a microphone to... Okay, so Robin has the mic. And you're good with that, Jess, to answer some questions? Okay, folks, so just put up your hand, I suppose. If you've got... We got to start at the back there, is that right, Robin? Please, sir.
Hey, Jesse. I don't know if you remember us. We were the guys with the Jesse banner. All the we gave you the Jesse banner. We were my buddy Dave.
How are you?
Classic. We just want to know three quick questions. What do you think of this year's team? And Does Jose Batista remind you of yourself, the cannon, like you had the cannon? And is Jerry Hallworth the best announcer you've ever seen?
There she goes.
Exactly.
Jerry is definitely one of the best, no doubt.
Exactly.
He's very sharp. He and Tom were a great
Yes, I forgot.
great duo. Bautista, one of the quickest releases I've ever seen. Definitely more power than me. Amazing.
More power in his arm than you?
No,
No.
hitting.
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 How is, as an offensive right fielder, how is he different from?
He's good. He gets a good jump on the ball. He's a great athlete. I couldn't play third base like he played third base. I couldn't play infield. It's easy to go from infield to outfield, but to go from outfield to infield, man, I tip my hat to him. That's hard to do.
Why?
It's just so fast. Everything happens, all reactions so fast. And he's got smooth hands, so no, he's special. He really is. 50, how many, 52, 50? How many home runs he hit? 53, 52?
54, I think.
54?
yeah.
I'm sorry about that. 54, that's a lot of bombs.
That's a lot of home runs.
He's a little guy, too.
Yeah, that's true.
He's amazing.
Do you watch
He is.
most of the games? Do you follow the Jays?
I watch him every now and then.
Yeah.
I watch it, because I get home pretty late at night sometimes.
Right.
But I do watch the highlights.
Do you have a sense of the? I think a good person asked. Do you have a sense of the team this year? Do you have a?
Well, from what I've seen, the Travis Kidd, amazing stick, goes the other way well. Short, quick, compact stroke. They got to stay healthy. A couple of the big sticks are off to a slow start. I'm not worried about that, because when it heats up, they're going to heat up too.
Well, it was actually encouraging to hear you talk about having such a terrible April.
Oh.
Greatest season of your life, because these guys are going through it.
Yeah, no doubt. But if they stay healthy, and I said this before, if they stay healthy, they're going to be a force to be reckoned with down the stretch. That's the key for them, because the depth is a concern. But you look at Pompey, I think they just sent him down. He'll be back up. That kid has a bright future.
That's good to hear. Who else?
Yeah, I don't want you to.
Turn it on there. You can probably just stand up.
Right. I don't want you to suffer PTSD, but that 1987 series, that's the game that if you won the Sunday night, you would have played Monday for the tiebreaker. Is that right?
That's right.
And
Sunday afternoon.
Sunday afternoon, is that when the game would have been?
No, they played Sunday afternoon. They would have.
Right,
played
yeah, I
Monday.
was there. It was very discouraging. But did you play in Cleveland before that?
No, Milwaukee.
He was
He
Milwaukee.
played at home against Milwaukey.
Okay.
Why were you at Cleveland shouting at Jesse from the?
Yeah, there's 200 people. There's a 4-hour rain delay. I don't know if I think you played that game. But no, I just wondered if it was Cleveland. If it was Milwaukee you played before the Detroit.
Yeah, they had a number.
They did.
And Milwaukee killed us. It wasn't Detroit. We beat Detroit at home. And Milwaukee killed us. Old farts.
Oh, Molitor.
That's why we hate Milwaukee ever since.
That's right.
Another question, Dave? Oh, over there, sir.
So Jesse, again, not to dwell on 87, but I heard an interview several years later with Sparky, and he talked about that 7-game series. And the one thing he mentioned, he said, all of his pitchers were instructed, do not pitch to George Bell because of the injuries that took place. It was easier to pitch to him and not give him anything because nobody was coming up behind him the way it had been all season. That was the one thing I just want you to comment on. And secondly, they were, 5 and out in the first round.
Yeah.
And he said in the interview, our World Series was versus Toronto. Can you comment on that?
Yeah, and what he meant by that was, in 87, well, first of all, 86, I had 21 home runs at the break, and I had 19 second half. I ended up with 40. In 87, I had 19 home runs at the break when I injured my wrist. And what a lot of people don't realize is that when I went to the All-Star Tour in Japan in '86, my last game there, I slid into second base, and I tweaked a wrist that was already, I had a chip bone in it. So I guess just the repetitive swinging took its toll. I ended up with 28 home runs, so that should tell you something right there. So that's what Sparky's not stupid. He knew my swing wasn't the same. I had surgery after the season to take that chip bone out.
Did you go in the DL at all in the second half?
No.
Any thoughts of it, or
No.
Did you tell the team? Did the team know that you were
Oh
playing?
yeah, I got treatment every day. Matter of fact, what's funny about it, I was at Fergie Jenkins' golf tournament, and you're not going to outwork me. I'm going to tell you that now. You're not going to outwork me. Even when I'm not playing, I'm always there for extra work. And John Sullivan, great coach. We had great coaches. He was our bullpen coach, Sully. Sully was asking me, Cito was there too at Fergie's tournament in St. Catharines. And it was a little disheartening to hear that, but I'm glad he said that at the time, because now I know what they thought at the time. They thought I shut it down because I signed a big contract. And I said, excuse me? I said, Sully, first of all, the only person that knew that I tweaked my wrist was a trainer, because I told him in spring training. I said, you remember I had 19 bombs at the break and I ended up with 28? That should tell you something. I didn't go down to the cage to take extra hitting like I usually do because my wrist was hurting. I saved it for the game. And you guys thought I shut it down? Okay. I'm thinking, I'm glad I went to New York now. I didn't say that. But I was so disappointed in hearing that.
Were you surprised that they wouldn't have confronted you or talked to you about that?
Well, you don't know what people think sometimes, because they don't talk to you. When I got traded to I'm being frank, I'm being frank. I mean, what are you going to do? I love it here, I still do. When I got traded in '89, I actually asked for the trade because the year before they benched me for 6 games and didn't say a word to me. And finally I went to the office and talked to Jimmy. Jimmy, what's going on? Didn't like the answer. So the next year, April, I had 5 home runs the day I got traded, I was tied with Puckett with 5 home runs. American League lead. I was only batting 200. What did he do? April. He benches me again. So I called my agent and I said, hey, it's time to win. Just don't be mad at the Blue Jays. It's time to go. So the next day I said, don't involve the media. I love Toronto. I love the fans. I don't want any problems. It's time to go. So I knew they were going in a different direction.
Do you ever wonder what it would have been like had you been able to sustain to the point that Cito becomes manager of that team? Was that ever in your mind?
Yeah. I think it would have been totally different because he was more of a communicator. Now later on, Jimmy learned. He was manager of the year with Boston. And sometimes people go through things when they learn. It's ironic, my wife and I were talking about this. I almost lost my second son, my youngest boy. He was born premature. And they didn't have the bereavement program set in place at the time. And I took 3 days off. And Jimmy called and said, you need to get back. Get back? I almost lost my kid. And so, and it's funny how that happened because he almost lost his kid a few years later. So now he's a little softer now, he understands. And I was telling my wife, I said, it's funny how I was talking to him after I became a coach and he was managing in Boston. I had a great conversation with him. Something different about him. Sometimes you go through things in life and it changes you as a person. And we had a great conversation. And I remember when he won his Manager of the Year award, and when they interviewed him, he said, I spend time listening to what my players have to say. He had never said that before.
think it says a lot about both of you that you remained open to the point that you could actually have a conversation down the road, which is important. Another question in the back?
Yeah, I have a couple I never got to ask upstairs. One was, during your career, you would have seen Clemens and Saberhagen, Cohn probably when he was good. Who was the toughest pitcher that you faced? Who was the guy that nobody wanted to see?
That's easy for me. Nolan Ryan owned me like a Negro slave.
He was no youngster when that. And the
I
other
can say that. I'm a Negro.
Yeah.
I can say that.
And,
You know what I'm saying?
I think it was,
and the other question I kind of have, the new rule where the catcher is not allowed to block the plate, do you think that affects, you had such a gun of an arm. There was Dwight Evans, and then it evolved in the American, it was Dwight Evans that became you, and then it became, I guess in the era that became Walker, and then Suzuki, and then Ellsworth and Valentine had a big arm too. But do you think it would affect the way you come to the plate? Or is that just something that is just not?
well, the target would be different, would it not?
Well,
Now than it would have been before.
I think so, because I remember Buck. You remember the play at home play where Buck got bowled over?
Broke his leg, ankle.
And
For people
in
who
Seattle.
don't know, right, Buck Martinez, the catcher, suffered a broken leg in a home plate collision,
Yeah.
but managed nonetheless to tag out.
Bradley, yeah.
And then
well,
threw.
well, what happened? Buck came to me and asked me. I used to try to throw the ball on the plate, maybe a little bit up towards the third base line. And Buck asked me, we still laugh about this to this day. Hey, Jesse, can you throw it up the line about 1 more foot so I can block the base, so I can block the plate? Okay. So I worked on that. And if you look at that replay, guess where that throw was?
Yeah, I think it's like, I wonder about it today because, you can't bring guys up the line. You can, but it's a waste of time.
Yeah. I mean, the throw beat him. The throw beat Bradley. And I don't think, I think they're going to end up changing that rule. They're going to have to change that rule because you have some good outfielders out there, Puig, and that throw is going to go up the line sometimes.
Thank you.
Just quickly before we take the last question, if you don't mind, I remember being there, my wife and I were both there the night you threw at Ricky Henderson twice. Phenomenal. It just seared into my memory. Do you have a favorite plate? A favorite assist?
Yes, I do. It would have to be Lou Whitaker. Lou's a friend. He was on second base. I was actually a Yankee at the time.
Ooh.
He's on second base. And I used to hate him too until I played for him.
We forgive you for that, Jesse,
Okay.
playing for the Yankees.
But he got on second base. And Ricky did the same thing too. He would get out there and, how you're supposed to check the outfield. Like, man, you got to check the outfield, see where they are, you know what I mean? So he looked out to right field and stretching his legs. And I just looked at him and said, don't even try it. So he goes, I'm going. I said, okay. Ricky did the same thing, stretching his hammies. He had hamstrings like this.
Right.
Like a horse. Man, we became teammates with the Yankees, and I'm like, I saw him out of uniform one day. I said, Ricky, that's a horse's leg. Oh my God, it's like, this hamstring is like here. This muscle has a muscle on top of that muscle. This muscle here has 3 muscles attached to it.
I'm sure he took it as a compliment.
He did, he laughed. But it's amazing.
So Lou tested you and you threw it.
Yeah, he tested me.
Nice.
So, and then the ball was waiting for him, and he kind of laughed afterwards, but, it's all in fun. It really is.
Funny you mentioned Ricky Henderson too, like when you would throw a runner out, you were the opposite of a hot dog. Like you would just go back into your position, and I think it says a lot about, the way you play the game.
But I always prided myself in never being thrown out. Bo Jackson got me one night in New York. I hit a ball down the line. Bo went and got it off the wall, turned, forget a crow hop, He turned and threw a bullet to second base. The throw beat me. It was off a little. I did a hook slide around it, and believe me, I was safe. I saw it. I went home. My umpire called me out. I went home and saw the replay, 4 or 5 angles. As you know, at Yankee Stadium, you got 20 cameras. So Rizzuto goes, I don't know, Marcel, you look safe to me. So the next day, they're stretching, and Bo stutters. He has a speech impediment. And that's why Bo knows he couldn't say I. You get excited. So they're on the ground stretching, and I walked up to him, and I said, Bo, I went home and checked out the replay, man. I got around that slide, I was safe. He goes, well, what the umpire said? I said, the umpire said I was out. Well, you were out then. I said, okay, man, I'll see you later. That's beautiful.
Last question, thanks.
I have one, and my son has one, if you don't mind. As a kid, I remember the rumors, the trade rumors, and you deal with it now with every sport, especially in the Toronto area. But I remember Barfield from Winfield, and then eventually the lighter deal. As an athlete, is that something you pay attention to at all?
Actually, I started some of those rumors. Have fun with it. I did. I started some of them. You got to have fun with it. Because those things are out of your control anyway. I look at it this way. As long as someone wants you, you have a chance. And as much as you want your favorite player to be there a long time, the economics of the game, the way the game is, it's very hard to do sometimes. You're not going to have that guy there for 10, 12 years like you would love to, but enjoy him while you have him. Because what you're seeing now with Bautista and Encarnacion, those guys, that's pretty special. Don't get spoiled. Those guys are really, really, really good. So enjoy it.
I just want to know, what do you think is there a difference in when you played and what the league is like now, or is there any major differences from that era?
In terms of the game itself, the players?
That both, I guess.
I think players are bigger and stronger now. The game is more offensive oriented than defense. I think because, especially outfield wise, because we took infield outfield practice every day. They don't do that anymore. I asked one coach when I was doing TV for CBC. I asked one of the coaches about this, and he said, well, we've got to save our players. We got to really protect our players. I said, what? Protect your players? These guys are elite athletes. You mean protect your investment? Okay. I didn't understand that, because if I didn't take infield outfield practice, I didn't forget the arm. I didn't feel right. I just wasn't loose for the game. So I didn't understand that.
What would the purpose of taking infield practice as an outfielder and vice versa be for the player? Just to get a deeper understanding of the way positionally the game plays, or
For pinpoint accuracy,
okay,
footwork, and you want to make sure you get your arm and your body loose for the game. Simple as that.
Jesse, I just want to say that you're one of the most honest and frank and revealing athletes I've met, and I'm sure people would agree with you and appreciate the honesty. You're a great master impressionist too. Thank you.
Yeah.